Hello and welcome to For Fox's Sake. Welcome to the big show with myself, Pete Selby, alongside James, Jono, and Sam. Crisis at Leicester. Yes, I think we've just tipped over into a crisis. So if you're watching live, do get in contact with the show either through X, through Facebook, or if you're watching live on Facebook, on YouTube as well, then do get in contact. Your comments, we will read them all out. We want everyone to have their opinion. And it's not just on what's going wrong at Leicester, it's what you would do to change things, who you think needs to go in terms of players, in terms of those maybe upstairs. And what would you do? Because it's all very well saying this is all rubbish, but what pragmatic things can we do to change things, if any? Does the manager need to go? There's all sorts to talk about. It is the big show, and that means that there's no topic that we cannot talk about when it comes to Leicester City. So do get in contact and do make sure that you subscribe, because at the end of the show we'll be announcing our brand new competition. And to enter the competition, all you have to do is be a free subscriber to the YouTube channel. So head over to YouTube, click on subscribe. That's it. You're in. You're in the competition. What do you win? You'll find out at the end of the show. Right then. Terrible. Absolutely terrible, wasn't it, against Blackburn? I don't think anyone or anything or any system or any manager or anything really comes out glowing after that performance. 3 on the bounce then. It's been terrible for Leicester on the field. Off the field, there's obviously a lot of issues to talk about. But overall, we've called it crisis at Leicester City, and there may be, and there will be, fans of other clubs looking at this going, well, hang on, if that's a crisis, then you don't know what a crisis is. Well, we do. We've had really bad times at Leicester before. We've had terrible times, worse than this, but it's the lowest that Leicester have been, after 13 matches into a season since King Power actually took over in 2010. So they've gone full cycle, haven't they, James, with King Power? They've gone from this position to getting us promoted, to winning the Premier League, to winning trophies, European, and then all the way back round again to where we started. I suppose what most people are thinking at the moment is, are they the right people to actually then take us back up again on that cycle of football? But the first question really, is it a crisis, or are we just slightly overreacting, as football fans tend to do?
Well, I think we all know that football fans are not the most rational people in the world. You might argue that they're the most irrational people in the world. We are in a really bad spot. There's no denying that. I think, obviously, 1 win in 5, 3 losses on the bounce, playing really badly, turgid. You can feel the discontent of the fan base, like inching up every single match. I'm not sure whether King Power selling the club is going to make much of a difference at this point. I also don't really know how that would be facilitated. Would anyone want to buy us? All of those types of things.
The thing is with King Power, selling the club. If people turn around and go, King Power need to go, they need to sell the club. That's all very well and good. But as you said, first of all, A, you need a buyer. B, they need to come and buy it now, not maybe wait and see at the end of the season. And also, you want it to be sold to the right person, because all of a sudden you could find yourselves at Leicester City with a new owner, everyone going, oh, fantastic. And then actually it turns out to be an awful lot worse than what we've got at the moment. And I think it's an easy thing to say at this moment, Jono, with sell, King Power out. I think at the moment, I mean, personally, obviously, if someone wants to come in and buy the club and take it back to where it was, and also, and possibly mainly, if Top feels, actually, I don't think that I've got the ability to do this, or I don't think I've got the money to do this, then that's all very well and good. That's fine with me. That's absolutely fine. But I think it's an easy thing to turn around. It's to turn around and complain and say, look, things aren't going right. You need to do this, need to do that. You need to change the director of football. I think 100%, we all agree with that. But I think saying King Power out, that's an easy thing to say, because that's not like saying the centre forward's rubbish, put another one on because we've got another one on the bench, or we've got another one in the reserves, or we've got another one in the youth team, or you can buy one. You can't just go around and change ownership like that. And also, again, in this great cycle, yes, we've gone right to the bottom, but again, we're not quite rock bottom, are we?
There's a lot to take in there. I am edging towards the position of thinking that it's time for King Power to potentially move on and for us to have a fresh start. How that's facilitated, yeah, is a really good question. Um, it's not. It shouldn't be rushed. It's something that needs to be considered, and it needs to, the moving to a new ownership structure. I think um, ultimately, I think will or has to be the way at this point in time. I don't see any leadership at all from the powers that be at the moment, and we haven't for some time, frankly. And you could argue that it all sort of started to unwind after the sad passing of Vishai. I think that really was the catalyst for the unraveling of the club as it was run with previously, in my view. And I think it's got to the point now where we've been drifting for many seasons, and it feels like it's getting to the point now where I think there on Saturday, I think that when the second goal went in on Saturday, the whole stadium were like, we're not sure what to do here. The whole place just went completely dead. Even the Union FS guys gave up banging the drum, and the whole stadium was quiet. It's almost like we're in mourning a little bit. It felt like we we weren't sure what to do, and it just felt at that moment it was the end of an era. Whether that's the end of an era of a manager, whether we've recognised that it's the end of the era in terms of this pathetic team, or whether it's a lot of people are sort of coming around to the idea that actually it might be time for King Power to call it a day, and for us to have a fresh new approach and a fresh new direction set by someone else. Because I don't feel like we've got that direction. I don't think we've felt like that we've had a direction at the top of the club for some time. There's a vacuum there, and so that's basically how I feel about it. I don't want it to be rushed. I don't want us to go to a really bad ownership. I want it to be sold to the right people, to have the right ambitions and the right philosophies in place. But to me, it feels like King Power aren't going to provide that anymore either financially or through a vision.
I mean, I said a few weeks ago about the fact that if you're going to get rid of the director of football, then now would be an absolutely ideal time, just after the transfer window closes. Immediately after is maybe you look at it and go, well, hang on, why couldn't you do this a few weeks prior? But after about a month or so of the season, you then get to the point where you go, well, if you bring in someone now, they've got time to have a look at the squad and have a look at targets, etc. There is a bit of time there. I think it was every new manager that we've had and every team that we've had since maybe the FA Cup win. I've said on the podcast, Sam, that Leicester fans as a whole, we need to kind of understand where we are in the pecking order and kind of get behind the side that we are right now, and not maybe look towards the league winning side, or maybe look towards the side once we lost. Once we got down into the Championship, stop looking at the likes of Yuri Tillemans and James Maddison, etc., and Harvey Barnes, and understand what we've got right now. And instead of bemoaning the fact that we don't have them players, get behind what we've got. And we did so very successfully. But I look at the side that we've got now, and I can't say that at all, because it's a very difficult side, and it's a very difficult, and I'm going to say manager, and it's a very difficult ownership and a club as it is right now to kind of identify with, because the one thing that we like as Leicester fans and as football fans as a whole is efforts. And there was no effort on Saturday, absolutely whatsoever. And without that, there's nothing to get behind at all. Even if you've got a squad and a first team filled with the best players that you've ever had at the club, without effort, it's still going to be difficult to get behind. Your thoughts at the moment? Crisis at Leicester?
Yeah, absolutely a crisis. I mean, I'm wearing my Tops Tiles League One shirt, but let's call it a coincidence.
An
omen. I think it comes back to exactly what we were just talking about. Leadership, transparency, and communication just don't exist. And I've said before on the pod, I was really concerned at the beginning of the season when we hired Marty, and all the press conferences is very bullish. We're going back to where we belong, the Premier League. We're here to win the league. At the same time, we're doing a complete fire sale where literally every player is for sale because we've got PSR hanging over our heads, we've got point deduction hanging over our heads. These things don't add up. And I think if there were a leader at the club that came out and said to the fans, look, it's going to be a bit of a transitional year for us, we're resetting so that we can get stronger in the future, I think we would all understand that. I mean, we're all pretty honest with who Leicester City are, right? We don't think, we should be top 4 every year, Champions League. That's not who we are. That's not who we've ever been. And we understand that. And I think we would all understand if they came out and said, this is a bit of a rebuilding process for us while we navigate this, this little bit of a, turbulent hiccup. We'd get that and we'd get behind that and we would understand. But there's the only message we've had is just been mealy-mouthed sound bites that it almost feels like, say what you think the fans want to hear, which is so counterproductive. And it's just contributing to this toxic environment where we don't know what the plan is. I don't know if there is a plan, but goodness me, if that starting 11 is the plan, then it's a very, very bad one.
And I suppose we've got to look at it football-wise now, James, really, because the off-the-field stuff is the off-the-field stuff. But when it comes to the on-the-field stuff, if you want to put it that way, for the first time, I'm really worried about the manager. Now, I would give him a lot of leeway at the start of the season. I thought the way, first of all, he set up the side. I thought the way that he brought in 1 or 2 youngsters. I thought the way he handled Monga. And we're talking about the first 5, 6, 7 games. You could see that Leicester weren't ticking over very well, but they were picking up points here, there, and everywhere. And there's a lot of improvement to come. And we all thought, thinking the best of things, that maybe that improvement will come and all of a sudden we'll really click and go on a nice winning streak, etc. But that's not happened. Okay. And now you look at the side and you look at the 4-2-3-1 that we religiously play, and you look at Marty Cifuentes on the sideline and you go, what do you have with this side of, some would say, mercenaries, some international players who look like they just don't want to be there? Do you have the personality to be able to change their attitude? First of all, I don't think so. The second thing is, do you have the ability, and also are you brave enough to change the first team and change the first team in terms of style, in terms of formation? And I'm not too sure. I worry about that. And the third option is, the one thing that you do have as manager is the ability to drop players. And we've seen with 1 or 2 that he has done that, but also I'm not too sure whether he has the ability or whether he has the confidence or whether he's brave enough to do that to the point which I think Leicester fans do want. Talking about the actual first team itself, I want to know what would you do, James? Maybe it's 1 or 2 players, maybe it's the formation, and also about Cifuentes, because right now, and I know we're talking about 1 game, but I've gone from, okay, there's a lot of problems in the side, to what happened on Saturday. I was really worried about the manager, and I hope he proves me wrong on Tuesday. That could even be with a defeat, but I want him to change things around, because he drastically needs to get Leicester fans back on side, at least before and at the start of the game.
Well, we know that he's a disciple of Pep Guardiola, and he wants to play that style, even though now football, particularly in England, is starting to turn away from that, and the corner is starting to turn, and it almost feels like we're playing slightly old-fashioned football, this obsession with playing out from the back, which, if you're not good enough to do it, then don't do it, right? And if you're good enough to do that, do it. Fine, brilliant. One of the issues is that our 2 best players, Monga and Fatawu, play on the wings. They're not wingers. And in the style of football that he wants to play, those 2 hog the touchline, which means that they're very ineffective within games. Fatawu could be a lot more effective across the whole 90 minutes if he wasn't forced to stay wide all the time. So if quite often you see Fatawu and Monga get lost in games, and then we haven't got a good enough centre forward to either hold the ball up, to run in behind, to kind of really do anything. We haven't really got a centre forward that can do anything. which is not good. I don't know.
You're basically saying exactly what I'm thinking, because I'm going to do a James Maddison here with my darts and bullseye. And it's a formation thing, and I know many Leicester fans will, but you can change formation. It's all very well saying you'd play this, play that. But I think that there's two massive problems with the squad. And the first thing is that, now, Jono, you were there. And first of all, big hello to Blue Fox Forever, saying that he's watching from Canada and he's watching on live stream. Normally listens to the podcast via Apple or via Spotify. Again, many listeners for the last 12 years will be now joining us. And they'll be looking at my ugly face going, oh, my God, no wonder you've not been live for all these years. But I think you hit the nail on the head there, because they do stay out wide. First of all, if you've got a number 10 in this formation, and we've played this formation for years and everyone knows it, if you've got a very effective number 10, let's say a James Maddison, this formation makes that position tick. It really does, because you've got the ability to run all over the place. You can go forward and link up with the centre forward. You can drop back if you want to. You can run out wide and help the wingers. Oh, imagine that. And then link up with little 1-2 and then get the ball into the penalty area. We don't have that player. But also, if you play in that formation, you've got the centre forward. That centre forward needs to be everything. It needs to be the person who occupies the last line. It needs to be the person who can hold the ball up back to goal. It needs to be the person who can link up play with that number 10. And it also needs to be the person who finds space in the penalty area when them two wingers get to the byline and then pull the ball back. We don't have that, okay? We had that in all-in-one, wrapped up, and he scored a goal against Juventus at the weekend, Jamie Vardy. We don't have that at the moment. And for the life of me, Jono, for the life of me, I cannot understand, and I know I've said this in the last couple of weeks, I really don't understand why we aren't giving our centre forwards more help by having more people near them. And that means another centre forward, because at the moment, Carranza stood there like an idiot on Saturday in the first half. He hardly touched the ball. I think there was a touch map came up on TV saying he touched the ball 3 or 4 times in the first half. If he's not touching the ball, you've got to give him more help. Now, he has been very poor, but surely they've got to look at this and go, we need to give help to these centre forwards, because whoever's playing at the centre forward role at the moment, it's ridiculous. They're lobbing balls into the penalty area. The two centre halves have been laughing for Blackburn. When we did the preview, I said that they're a very solid, well-drilled team who really got stuck into Southampton and realised that Southampton are a bit of a Leicester at the moment and will fall over in a good gust of wind. That's how you play against us. And you just need to give them more help. And by maybe having 2 up front and maybe being a bit narrower, first of all, that would solidify the side all round, but also get the wingers into the game a little bit more, not just being hung out wide, but also being a little bit better in terms of giving those centre forwards help. I mean, Jono, I don't know how good a footballer you are, but you would have been better up front.
Well, I'd like to think that I was all right back in the day, but yeah, legs are gone a little bit now.
I had 4 trials for Leicester City. I want to put that on the record.
I mean, I don't want to name drop, but I actually was at school and played in the same school team as Heskey back in the day. So that's
no way.
Really?
Oh, I didn't. I don't know whether you mentioned. I think you mentioned that maybe the first time you came on. I think you mentioned that.
Yeah.
Well, Rob Hayes obviously thinks he's still a footballer, and Rob will be back this week, by the way, with the preview. We know he talks about. He always mentions whenever he mentions a centre half, he always talks about. Oh well, I don't like to say, but I do still play at a fairly decent level and all this. Well, you had 4 trials, James. I had trials for the goalkeeper. I got the second half of trials for a goalkeeper, and I'm 5'6" on a good day. Sorry, Jono.
No, I was going to say I'm now sort of branching into kids coaching now, so I'm coaching under 8s. So, you know, whether that qualifies me to tell me what Marty should be doing, I don't know. But I think there's quite a few things I'd mention about Marty. I think first of all, I liked the cut of his jib, to be honest. Initially, he was talking a good game and said the right things. And when we didn't perform, he actually came out and said we didn't perform. He wasn't trying to, do a Rodgers and basically deflect the fact that that we hadn't played well. He actually came out and said, "No, I want more. We haven't played well. This, that, and the other." So for the start, I liked that honesty.
Yeah.
However, the more I see, the more I think that unfortunately maybe he's a bit limited in terms of his ability. He's got a plan A, and the plan A is the only thing he's got, and the plan B doesn't exist. And we've heard that before from various different managers along the way. But I think in this instance, I don't know whether he's got any ideas. I don't. I think he's lacking. I think he's run out of ideas, frankly, about how to get a tune out of this group of players. And he's not the only one that's failed to do that. We've got a string of managers now that basically have failed to be able to motivate as well as find the right options and formations and tactics to get a good, decent tune out of this lot. Unfortunately, it's got to the point now where I think it's beyond tactics. I think it's about motivation of the players. I don't think it's there. I think that there's a lot of them that are leaving on a free contract at the end of the season. When that happened last time, i.e. Tillemans, Maddison and all the rest, we went down from the Premier League. The same kind of thing seems to be happening to me. It's happening again. It's the motivation of the players. Half of them are going to be leaving at the end of the season. They couldn't give a rat's ass, frankly, where we will be at the end of the season because they'll be off and looking for a new opportunity. It's sad to say that they're not, acting like professionals. In my view, they're not putting it all in there. But I don't think the tactics are helping either. And I think Marty needs to find a different way to play. He needs to find a plan B, and he needs to play this to the strengths of the players. Playing Daka, as a hold-up man, just isn't going to work. Playing Ayew, playing balls over the top isn't going to work. We've got to find a formation. I don't know what that is. And I think that it might be as simple as going 4-4-2. Get the balls in the box or something and get two strikers in there and see what happens. I don't know.
I agree, though.
Ultimately, all of this tippy-tappy stuff around the back frustrates the hell out of me, and it's frustrating a lot of people at the stadium as well. It's just absolute nonsense. When we're 2-0 down and we're tapping it around at the back, what are you doing? Get on with it.
Yeah, John, I mean, I wasn't at the ground, but I watched on the telly and the TV broadcast. The impression I got was that it felt very toxic. Like it sounded like, and maybe you can confirm it sounded like every time Samari and Luke Thomas got the ball, the home crowd were booing. Obviously, we all heard the chants, "You don't know what you're doing," to the manager when he subbed JJ off and left Samari on. Samari, by the way, when he finally did get subbed, looked quite upset. And I wonder if it's now getting personal, which, I mean, he was absolutely dreadful. Let's get it right. And he shouldn't be playing. But, and that's down to the manager as well. I don't know what he's seeing, but we're not seeing it. And I think it felt to me like it's now reached tipping point where maybe we're turning on our own players.
Well, it's been happening for a while, but it was toxic at points. But I think it was only toxic after the second goal went in, frankly. I think the whole, where I was sitting was certainly supporting and doing our best to get behind the team. And we let the first one in. We were a bit let down and bit, come on, let's give them another shout. And we were supporting them. The second one went in and it was like, this isn't happening. And the whole stadium shut down at that point. It was an absolute library. At that point, I think it did start to get toxic. But we gave it a good go. We need something to cheer. Until the second goal went in, we were doing our best. I'm not going to be, and I think I fell silent after the second goal, not knowing what to do at that point. And I think everyone else did. And Union FS stopped banging the drum at that point as well. And it felt like a mourning situation. We were mourning the death of our team, to be honest. It sounds dramatic, but it felt that way.
Yeah, I believe that. I mean, I didn't believe for a second that we were going to score a goal in that game. After the second winner, and I just thought I might as well just fast forward through this. Like, what's the point?
Yeah.
But that's the thing though. If you're watching, and of course everyone was watching. Just a few comments here. Chester Leicester, we're in trouble. Manager has to improve. The players are a disgrace. Only a handful can hold their heads high. And also, we mentioned James Wade with about the managers, etc., from the director of football. But the one again, we're referring to the game on Saturday. The problem with me, of course, is you're changing players just like for like. You know, if you look at what Christensen comes off. Yes, he was injured, but he's a terrible footballer, isn't he? Really lightweight, terrible going forward. How is an international?
He was solely responsible for the second goal, in my view. He was doing it all game, just letting his winger go past him for fun. He's a shocking footballer.
Yeah, he's dreadful.
He's another in the Samari where he's never done it and he never will. And then you look at Mavadidi, Ayew comes on, Decordova-Reid comes on for James, but it's and again it's a very easy thing to say. Go back to being a very simple. Go back to simple tactics, simple rules, and also the square peg in the round hole. You mentioned, Jono, and also playing your best players in the right position. And once James and Winks got together, James, in midfield, it looked to be a match made in heaven. You've got two players who look like they really fit alongside each other. And all of a sudden they start messing around with putting James further forward. I get it. I get the idea of that. But you've got a whole world of players ahead of him who could play in that role. And I know they've been slightly unlucky with Ramsey, etc., and Decordova-Reid with injuries. But to move him has just been, for me, it's criminal. Why change that? And also the fact that the one player that you bring in when you do that maneuver is you're bringing in Sanamari, who, again, has never done it and never will. And then you look at what happens at fullback. Christensen. Now, Thomas, did the change have to be made? Yes. I think it's more mentality than anything with Thomas. So what do? You bring in Christensen because that's all we've got. And yet he's dreadful. Can we go back to having a player like a Doyle? We mentioned this before. And I think you've mentioned before, James, having that Doyle-esque kind of player where, yes, it's not his position, but you can set up in a way where it would be limited by whoever's in front of them as well, like left-sided centre-half who plays further out wide. What's happened to the attacking Ricardo on the right, moving into midfield? That seemed like that was completely abandoned. It was a very, very strange performance. But again, and also you change the forward. So the forward Carranza after 63 minutes, Patson Daka comes on after the goal. Well, what use is that going to do? Why not bring on Daka and play alongside Carranza, who was hopelessly isolated? And that's my problem with Cifuentes. I thought, Jono, you spoke really well about how he spoke prior to the game and prior to the last couple of weeks. But I just think we need to see more with his team selections, with his in-game substitutions, which I've been actually quite in favour of until now, and also changing things up tactically. At the moment, it just looks like in the last 10 minutes, he may just go through at the back and see what happens.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you're taking off Carranza and bringing on Daka or bringing on Ayew, you're just swapping one striker who doesn't score for another striker who doesn't score, which is not ideal. A lot of this, I think, comes down to us as a club, as an institution, deciding what we are and who we are. And actually, maybe this season being a bit of a disaster, as long as we don't go down, might not be the worst thing in the world. And that actually what we need is a big reset where we say, okay, this is who we are now. Like Brighton, Brentford, Bournemouth, they know who they are. Wolves and Nottingham Forest don't.
We knew who we were.
Yeah, and we don't anymore. And so maybe with all of these really interesting 18, 19-year-olds that we've got in who are not playing, if you go back and look at Arteta, there's a point about a year into his management where he just basically says, screw it. And he drops people like David Luiz and he puts in the youngsters. And that's when it started to go up. Now, it's not as simple as, we can't just start Martinelli. But this is probably it's bigger than Cervantes, definitely, and this is not all his fault. But the way that you were talking a minute ago about all the tactics things, there's nothing considered about what he's doing. He's just throwing stuff at the walls and seeing what's going to stick.
I think that's what
And
Ruud van Nistelrooy was doing as well, because he
yeah,
ran out of ideas. I think I'm seeing the same patterns with Marty as I did with Ruud.
Yeah.
And nothing feels different. It doesn't feel like we've got a different manager here.
I think my biggest problem with Ruud van Nistelrooy was name a single player he made better.
Mhm.
Zero. And okay, so now name a single player that Cifuentes has made better. Struggling.
Exactly. And I agree with Richard Houston, who messaged saying, Marty, time to go. He may be a good manager, but time for him. We need someone who's stronger mentally with the players. That could well be the case. But I do agree with him on the system needs to change. Winks and Ricky P are better footballers, but in the Championship, to be a success, you need legs. Absolutely right. There's no way that the two midfielders, and I did the Blackburn game against Southampton, and they fought for that victory and they were rewarded with chances late on, and they took those chances because they had a couple of players up front. So they were rewarded for endeavour, for fight, a little bit of luck because Southampton had many chances after being in front. And also when they had their chances, they took them, but they had players in the positions to take them as well. And then you look at Leicester, and all those things that I mentioned there are very basic. Do they have the fight? No. Are there players in positions where they can take their chances? No, we're not. Again, we mentioned how isolated the centre forward is, and it's and so everything you need to be a championship team. And again, the old adage: every single team who turns up in the King Power from an away side point of view is same side but wearing different shirts. But what they do is they fight and they can win tackles. And every single second ball on Saturday, Jono, your testament for this. They won. They won absolutely every single second ball. And also, when they knew that they would have centre forwards as well, because there's two up front, one behind, and they had them two really solid midfielders. And I completely agree with Richard. You've got players like Winks in midfield. Fine. You need a runner alongside him. You've got James, who is box to box, right? Samari is not that sort of player. Ricky P as well. What do you have alongside? The gap between the midfield and defence was extraordinary. And that's purely because the defenders, Yannick Vestergaard, okay, and Kelly McCulley, they know damn well that the way the game's going, they've got to hang back because they know as soon as that ball goes forward into midfield, it's going to come back to them because they're just devoid of any idea of what to do. And they just need to hang back slightly because they're going to be given the ball. They don't want to be given the ball on the tiptoes of these forwards because they're going to have it pinched off them. But of course, they hang back. And then there's a big gap develops between them. And of course, it's filled by Blackburn players. And as soon as the balls get passed to him, they can turn, run. And all of a sudden, Yannick Vestergaard's turning around going, oh, my God, I've got a player running at me. So, and it's also, by the way, I don't blame them at all. Because if they pushed up, they would have got caught out time after time, even though they did with the players in front of him. But it's just a systematic problem at Leicester at the moment. And this was all very easy to see after about 15 or 20 minutes. But the question is, and this is the question right now, James, Jono, Sam, and to everyone watching, what do we do? Like, what do we do? And I want to know one thing. What is the one thing I want from you guys? What's the one thing that you would do? I'll say mine first. Why not? And we've said it before, but it's kind of what, James, you touched on, and it's that bringing the youth players forward. Now, I know a lot are over with England, etc., in the under-21s, in the under-17 World Cup in Morocco, I think. Anyway, what I would do is I would fill the bench with youth, okay? You look at the bench on Saturday. I'm just going to read out the bench for you. Ayew, Begovic, Chowdhury, Daka, Decordova-Reid, Walt Vass, Skip, Thomas, and Thomas, the two Thomases. I would look at one or two important positions. The goalkeeper, for example, you need that. And I would say maybe the centre half as well. So you've got a Coley, you've got Vestergaard, and you've got Walt Vass. More than likely, those three would be involved on the bench or in the first team. But with the rest of the side, I would look at that and go, well, you've got Chowdhury who can come in at right back, skipping midfield, etc. I get it. But I would take off 3 or 4 of those and bring in the youth players and maybe put 2 or 3 in the first team, or at least 2 in the first team, 3 maybe too many, and say to the first teamers, look who you're playing alongside now. You're playing alongside one of the younger players or a player who's not been given much of a run. And this is because of you. And guess who's next to change? It will be you. And give them a bit of a frightener and say, oh, you're not in the first team squad. And they might turn around and kick off. Well, I'm sorry, if you're a professional footballer and you knock on Marty Cifuentes' door and go, hi, I've not been in the first team squad against Middlesbrough. I'm Walt Vass, for example. And I would just turn around and point to the league table and go, look where we are. Look at the recent results. It's not maybe your specific fault, but I'm bringing these youth players forward, and in your position, I'm going to bring in X, Y, and Z. Okay, that's an example. It could more than likely happen at fullback, would be an ideal position. You could say to Thomas and you could say to Christiansen, not being funny, you've both been really poor. We're going to promote some youth. But that's what I would do. And it's not pressing that big red button and making 8 changes and bringing in 8 youngsters, but bringing in a couple into the first team to freshen things up. Look what happened at West Ham on Sunday. Brought in a centre midfielder, an awful lot of energy, an awful lot of young legs running around, and the whole team was lifted. Something along them lines. Keep to your first team plans. Keep to your first team main players, your Winks and your James, etc., in their right positions. Give more help to the centre forwards by playing both of them. But just add a bit of youth, but especially on the bench, and do the one thing that I think Cifuentes can do. If he can't lay it down by his personality and using his words, etc., and having the aura of like an O'Neill or someone like that, do it by dropping players. That's what I think needs to happen. James.
I think I don't really want to say to sack Cifuentes.
Yeah, you do.
I do. I think
you do. Say it.
I think at this point we're getting to the stage that we're just kind of delaying the inevitable. And I also think if he loses tomorrow and he loses on Saturday, he's going to get sacked anyway.
By the way, I'm just going to make a rule. Just going to make a rule right now. If anyone says sack Cifuentes, they need to instantly say who they want to be the manager as well. An instant rule.
I know who it'll be. It's not who I want it to be, but
that'll do. That'll do as well. That'll do as well. Sorry, James. Sorry.
My number 1 pick would be Kieran McKenna, but I don't know if we'd get him. Could we convince him to leave Ipswich?
They would hate him if that happened. They would hate him. I can't see it. I can't see it.
Why would he come?
More money, maybe.
I can't see it. Go on, Jono. Who do you think will be the next Leicester manager if the button's pressed?
I think it'll be Russell Martin, but I don't want it to be.
Oh, no. Yeah, I think my stomach's just gone.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't want to cause upset, but
that is a thing. Who realistically is going to take over?
What's Jose up to?
Well, he's at Benfica, but in his first press conference, he was angling for his next job. Like,
yeah, well, I mean, of course he is. That's what he does.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's fantasy.
Yeah, I don't want it to happen either. By the way,
no,
he's not coming. He's not going to come. You need to obviously have someone in mind.
Ultimately, it boils down to the fact that you were asking the question earlier, Pete, about who are we? We need, and I think James, you mentioned it. We need to establish, who we are, set up a new identity. Frankly, that's what I was talking about. We haven't got the visionary at the top of the club who actually wants to set that vision up, communicate that vision, and and that's the problem. If I think Sam, you said it perfectly. If it was a consolidation season, if the vision was, we're going to have a reset, we're going to do this, that, and the other. It's going to take a bit of time. Have patience with us. We've got a plan, but we're getting on with it. Blah blah blah. I think if we had some communication and some transparency, I think we could get behind that. But we've got nothing at the top of the club at all, no vision whatsoever. So we can talk all day about where we are as a club, but that needs to be set by the person at the top, and that isn't being set up at the top. Frankly, that's a big problem.
It reminds me of Liverpool last week, actually, when they're in the League Cup. They played the youth team, and the communication from the club, from the manager, wasn't that they were going to play the youth team, and there was a lot of angry fans because they expected to see maybe a few changes. Now, if you go back a couple of years, Jurgen Klopp always said a couple of weeks before, by the way, everyone, we're going to play the youth team again in the League Cup. So bear that in mind if you want to come, etc. All the fans turn up knowing they're going to see a youth team. And it was all those 4-4 and 5-5 games, weren't it? But you knew what you were going to get. I remember back a million years ago at Filbert Street when I think we played West Ham at home. It was the Di Canio game. He's played unbelievably well. And Leicester had a really, really young team out because they had injuries. And I remember O'Neill for the week before going like, look, everyone, this is going to be the... And they got clapped off the pitch. I think we lost 2-1. But we knew that it was that. And I agree. And if it's the case that Cervantes needs to do it now and drops 3 or 4 of the first team players and tells everyone, look, everyone, you can see it's not going well. We're going to bring in these players. I think a lot of Leicester fans will get behind that. I just don't think for a million years he'll do it.
I don't think he's got the bottle to do that, frankly, and I don't think he's got the backing from the top of the club to do that.
I agree.
Rudkin and Top would stand for that. I think the other problem is that what vision we do have from the top of the club is totally outdated. That I think we keep bringing in managers that want to play this tippy-tappy nonsense, which is not suiting to our players or squad or even the league we're in, and it just doesn't work. We're living in this fantasy land that we're going to be playing like Man City. And if that's the vision that's coming from Top, he needs to get a reality check and get a manager in that knows what he's doing at this level of football with this squad of players. That's for me what the big problem is here, is that we're not playing to the strengths of the players. We haven't got a manager who can motivate a bunch that basically are going to be out of the club at the end of the season. I would bring in the youth. I would echo what you said, Pete. Not all of them, but I certainly would bring them in onto the bench. There's a bunch that are making a claim in the under 21s. Where's Ben Nelson gone? Where's, I think Evans could come in. Where's Page? Is he still injured? I don't know. But there's people that have been in and around the first team squad that could make a claim. And if that is the vision from Marty and says, look, we're going to sack all this lot off and we're going to start with some youth and we're going to try and bleed them through, that would be refreshing for me to just be honest and say, look, this lot are a bunch of nonsense con artists that are just going to leave at the end of the season. We're going to sack that lot off and we're going to start fresh with the youth setup. And, it might not do us too well for results, but it's something that I think people could get behind.
I do. And also, I think if you look at those first team players, you look at the midfield, the Winks and James Axis, you look at maybe Ramsey in front of when he's back, etc. And the 1 or 2 players like a Declan Reader, who I think would be a really good player in this division. The centre halves as well. Vestergaard stood there alongside. I mean, he's our best forward at the moment, let alone defender. And the goalkeeper as well. I think you've got the basis of a decent side there. But if you then put the youth alongside that, then I think that's where hopefully they can gather some support from the stands. But maybe it's even too late, Sam. Go on, and what's your one thing then? What's your silver bullet?
Black bag Samari and handcuff him to a radiator on Saturday morning so he can't play, probably. No, the biggest problem we all know, we can't score goals. So you look at the squad, who have we got in the squad who actually know where the net is? So Fatawu can score goals. Unfortunately, Ramsey's injured. Vestergaard, I think, is equal top scorer, something like that. I think he scored more than all the forwards combined. But Jordan Ayew can score goals. I mean, he's, we know he's not a number 9. He's not leading the last line man, balls over the top, but he knows where the goal is sometimes. So we've got to find a way to get Ayew and Fatawu shooting lanes to actually have shots on goal. And that's the only way goals are going to come. You could play Patson Daka and Julian Carranza for the rest of the season. My goodness. Play them together, maybe something will bounce off one of their heads, maybe, but I am done with that experiment. They're just not. We say Jordan Ayew is more like a false 9. Patson Daka is a false footballer. He's a fraud 9. Like, my goodness, I'm done with that. If it's confidence, okay, go and score 5 for the under-23s, but I don't think he's doing that either. Goodness me. So I don't know if it's to play something like a 4-3-3 because I thought Fatawu was all right on the weekend. He tried bloody hard. He set up a lot of chances for no one to score. I think we've got to get him in a position where he's setting up chances for himself to score, cutting in. I mean, we've seen him do that a few times already this season. You know, the Ian Robin move, cut in on his left and stick at top bins. So, you know, maybe a 4-3-3 with Ayew in the middle. I would have Decordova Reid in because he hasn't disappointed me yet this season, which I can't say about most of the squad. Yeah, oh, my goodness. I mean, it's dire straits, isn't it?
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, ultimately, we're talking about just shuffling the same nonsense.
Yeah, I mean, we are, but
you know, ultimately, it just needs a clear out,
yeah,
which is
for
what
sure.
should have had over the summer. We should have had
Yeah.
a massive clear out, but there wasn't enough done in the summer. And now we're reaping the rewards of that, basically getting 3 in on deadline day on loan.
Yeah.
One of them absolutely stinks. The other 2 seem okay, Ramsey and JJ, but they're starting to be. You can see their confidence dropping now, coming into a squad like this, which is a shame. Yeah, I'd go 2 up front. And give it
I would as well, and also I don't want to hark back to beforehand, but end of the day, it's all about opinions. And this, I was a big fan of Gary O'Neill before Cifuentes was appointed. Turns out he's out of the running for the Wolves job. Not being funny for me. If it doesn't go right against Middlesbrough, there's your guy, very intelligent guy, someone who could maybe bring a different opinion to the team, a different opinion to the changing room, and hopefully will be a stronger personality maybe than Marty Cifuentes. It might just not be his job. He could be a very good manager. It might not just be his job. But just to finish the show, before we leave, 2 things. One, James, we have a special coming up about BC Game. We're going to be recording this week, fingers crossed. Just a little outlier about BC Game. Why do people need to be listening to this special? First of all, what are we going to be talking about?
Well, they should listen to it because since we put BC Game back on the show, we haven't won a game. So it's just that they're a curse upon the club. I think if you want to understand how confused this club is, then you understanding our relationship to BC Game and the gambling industry is essential. And our club is tied to the gambling industry more than any other club in the country, in the world, to a certain extent. And it's a really fascinating, confusing, and to a certain extent, enraging story of how this company are back on our shirts. And listen to it.
It's going to be interesting, and also, should we say, a gambling company? And again, I'll keep on saying, my whole career has been working for betting industry and for gambling. You know, when it comes to that side of things, that's where I basically earn my bread and butter. But we're talking about a company who you cannot bet with in the UK. They do not hold a UK license, and that's a real angle where I'm coming from. So it's going to be really interesting. It's going to be a lot of facts. We're going to give our opinion, but we're going to give a lot of facts of who they are, what the stages of the story has been, and just to shine a big light on what actually BC Game are bringing.
And if you don't, if you're listening to this and you don't really know that much about how the kind of modern gambling industry works and how it relates to football, listen to it because you will be completely shocked at how these companies operate and how insane it is that football clubs get involved with them.
Yep, James Turrell is for Fox 8's own Philippe Auclair. So we will be having a big discussion about that. And now we will have our competition. Now, to join the competition, to enter the competition, you need to be a subscriber on YouTube. It's free. Just subscribe to YouTube, sign up, and basically head to for Fox 8's YouTube channel, click on subscribe, job done. You're in the competition. And the competition relates to BC Game because it's you can win a shirt. It's not just the shirt, though. You have the choice. You can either win a shirt or you can have the entire kit if you want. So it's basically a nice Christmas present buy for Fox's sake for you. So you can either have a shirt for yourself, or if you want, you can have an entire kit. So I'm thinking about the kids, etc., or the missus, or whatever, or your mates, or your family. So it's up to you. You can either have a shirt of your choice. You might want one of the retro shirts, but you may want a full kit. It's up to you. But whoever the winner is, you will be notified in the next few weeks. We'll have a deadline. I'm thinking maybe the 1st of December. It's nice and easy. And we'll do the draw live on the show as well. So it's nice and easy. Win a Leicester City shirt or Leicester City kit if you want. Don't get me wrong. If you're a man in your mid-40s and you're wanting an XXXL and you go, can I have the full kit? There might be a few raised eyebrows. Come on. But if you want a kid's kit, then you can have the full shebang. So all you need to do is head over to For Fox's Sake podcast on YouTube. Make sure you're subscribed, and it means that you're entered. That's it for the show. Many thanks to James, to Jono, and to Sam. Fingers crossed about Middlesbrough tomorrow night at the time of recording. We'll be back with the BC Game special and, of course, the preview in time for the weekend. And there's a certain Rob Hayes. Have we heard from Rob Hayes? Yes, apparently he's back. I want to see how tanned he is, because I think he's been abroad somewhere. So thanks, James. Thanks, Jono. Thanks, Sam. And thanks to everybody who's commented. And thanks to everybody who's watched. Make sure you subscribe, because you want that Leicester City shirt. And remember, you can have it without BC Game.